Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on ICC Men's Cricket World Cup 2023 second semi-final between two of the most finest teams. One sits on ODI ranking number 2 and the other on ODI ranking number 3. The ODI rankings themselves suggest how close this match could really be, and apart from that historical scar that both would like to forget and create a new day-to-day, because it just takes one day to make it all happen. So let's begin this pre-match show of the second semi-final between South Africa and Australia with stats, facts and review. Well, five-time champions Australia are set to take on South Africa in the second semi-final of the ODI World Cup today at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. South Africa have never progressed beyond the semi-finals of the tournament, impeded by a combination of bad luck and nerves. They have looked formidable this time, having trounced Australia in the league phase, but Australia are on a 7-games winning streak. DD India's Anil Thomas has a report.
South Africa takes on Australia in the second semi-final at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata. The match between these two of the greatest cricketing giants holds number of history. The Proteas have been one of the strongest contenders after they have claimed 7 wins in the league stage, with the only losses coming against India and surprisingly the Netherlands. The team, which not many pundits regarded as the top 4 in the competition, has out of nowhere bagged the eyeballs of many. South Africa possesses a strong batting lineup which many witnessed as they smashed the highest score of 428 in the World Cup against Sri Lanka, along with 399 against England. The likes of Rassie van der Dussen, Aiden Markram, Enrich Klaasen and Quinton de Kock have all been incredible in the ongoing campaign. The wicketkeeper batter, who is competing in his farewell ODI event, has been on top of his game, scoring 591 runs in the league stage. The bowlers also have been in top-notch form for the Africans. On the other hand, the mighty Aussies got off to a sluggish start in the World Cup. The side witnessed back-to-back defeats to India and the Proteas towards the beginning of the campaign, which harmed their standing. However, the 5-time World Cup winners quickly recovered as they defeated Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Netherlands and New Zealand consecutively. David Warner, Mitchell Marsh, Glenn Maxwell and Travis Head have all scored runs for Australia. Australia and South Africa have met in 109 ODIs. Out of this, Australia have won 50, while South Africa have triumphed on 55 occasions. One match ended without any result, and 3 matches ended in a tie. Both nations have faced 7 times in ODI World Cup, in which both teams claimed victory in 3 matches each, while one match concluded in a tie. South Africa will be eyeing for first World Cup final, whereas the Kangaroos will be looking to enter its 8th World Cup final.
Australia and South Africa are 2 steps away from glory and 1 from despair. The Eden Gardens wicket has been a batsman's paradise, and both teams will look at their batters to outbat the opposition. The weather gods have sounded a warning of rain that could be of cause of concern for both teams in this edition of the World Cup. With camera person Rajesh Rikhi, Anil Thomas reporting for DD India from Kolkata.
And now to give you a quick update on the toss, South Africa, they won the toss and elected to bat first. Now this is very much in favor of Team South Africa because toss has a very important role to play over here. Before we go on to our guest, Mr. Ajay Mehra, let's quickly give you a glimpse of the previous World Cup results between both the teams. So here's a list of results in World Cup for both the teams that we would like to show you. In the 1992 match, South Africa, they beat Australia by 9 wickets where the match took place in Sydney. In the 1999 clash, Australia beat South Africa by 5 wickets in Leeds in the group stage match, and in the semi-finals the match was tied in Birmingham. Moving on to the year 2007, Australia, they beat South Africa by 83 runs and also moving on to the second stage of that same year only, Australia again beat South Africa by 7 wickets. Moving on to the year 2019, when both the teams faced each other, South Africa, interestingly, they won by 10 runs, and In Manchester also, South Africa won by 134 runs. This was in 2023 in Lucknow when South Africa won by 134 runs. And now to discuss more on this, I'm joined by cricket expert, commentator and former cricketer Mr. Ajay Mehra. Good afternoon, Mr. Mehra. Thank you so much for joining us here on our special broadcast on Cricket World Cup. Now, this is a very important semi-final clash between South Africa and Australia. South Africa have never been able to go beyond the semi-final clash, but this time right from the beginning the toss is suggesting something else. What is your take?
Absolutely, Deepika. I feel it's a good toss to win for South Africa because they have the depth in batting. They have done well batting first. Always with South Africa that joker's tag is associated. So I felt because we are batting first, the pressure of course of the semi-finals is different. But once you're chasing any score, even a target of even 300, the pressure at times gets on decided to bat first because the post runs on the board are always going to be beneficial for South Africa. And as I mentioned earlier, they have a very strong, potent batting lineup as well. The likes of Van der Dussen, Markram, Quinton de Kock, he's been in absolutely amazing form as well.
We will go back to Mr. Mehra. We will fix his audio and bring him back to this very important show. We would also be joined by Anil Thomas, who would be joining us from Eden Gardens, Kolkata. Now, talking about this current match, as Mr. Mehra was saying that this is a toss that has gone today in favour of Team South Africa. When we talk about the unit of South Africa, and especially at this edition of Cricket World Cup, they are a very balanced side right now. Let's go back to Mr. Mehra. Mr. Mehra, please continue with your answer. You were talking about the batting side of South Africa.
Yeah, and what happens is, once you're chasing Deepika, the pressure is different. Sometimes you lose those couple of wickets early on, the pressure is going to be different. So I think it's a good move by South Africa. And, they're a side, I was just covering a series just before the World Cup. South Africa and Australia, that series were playing in South Africa. And South Africa, the last three matches, they performed really well. So both these sides, they have, that competition is pretty good. We saw the stats as well. They always have, very interesting, intriguing clashes amongst themselves. South Africa, of course, they have quality spinners as well. Just that one edge that South Africa have, I feel, is the spin department. Even Australia have some very good, formidable fast bowlers. But just in the spin department, Keshav Maharaj has been in spectacular form. He bowls with a lot of guile as well, the left-arm spinner. Tabraiz Shamsi as well, the Chinaman bowler. So that's one area because Adam Zampa, he's a really good, longer format bowler. But they have, of course, Maxwell, who can roll his arm as well. The off spinner has done well. But I think quality spinners South Africa have in the lineup, I think that's a big difference for me. And of course, South Africa fielding, we saw in the World Cup in the earlier games as well, that's been outstanding. So I think it's going to be a really good contest. But I think now just that favour, of winning the toss and batting first, that's going to be really important for South Africa because once they get runs on the board, even 350, 400 runs on the board, that's going to be enormous pressure on Australia when they come into chase.
And considering, of course, considering the fact that when we talk about this particular pitch in Eden Gardens, the stats say that 91% of the victory goes in favour of the person of the team who wins batting first, who wins the toss and chooses to bat first, and or whoever goes batting first. And here, if we talk about the same stat, 91% could be further extended if South Africa plays it well today.
Absolutely right, Deepika, because, you rightly mentioned, once you bat first, and especially under lights, I played a lot of cricket in Eden Gardens. Under lights, there is that movement as well. The seamers get that movement now. There is also the focus of a bit of a... sometimes it happens, it comes or it doesn't come, so that's not in your hand. But I think it's a good move. South Africa, they have gone with their strength of batting first. And also the fact, even if a dew comes in, that will come in just around the last 30 overs. So if they can pick up those early wickets, South Africa, in the first 20 overs, and we saw yesterday how India bowled, how they came back because of Mohammad Shami, picking up those 2 wickets in 1 over. In the end, Shami getting those 7 wickets. So I think, South Africa does the right thing because in a pressure game, in the semi-final of a World Cup, there's going to be enormous pressure on both the sides. But, once you choose to bat first, get runs on the board, that's going to be really important, imperative for South Africa.
But, Mr. Mehra, let's also not forget the fact that Australia, when they are in the knockout stages, they really become the undertakers.
Yeah. Absolutely right. And, Australia, 5-time champions, Deepika, they know how to win. They know how to come out of the crunch situations. and they have done pretty well. The good thing about Australia is suddenly you see their top order. All of them getting runs. Maxwell, we know what kind of innings he played against Afghanistan, the double hundred. You see top of the order, David Warner, Mitchell Marsh, he's explosive as well. So they have a formidable batting lineup. But just that weakness probably that Australia I mentioned earlier is in the spin department. I feel, that's one area. Adam Zampa, if he bowls well, and normally the surface at Eden Gardens, Deepika, is really good for batting, very conducive for batting. So I think, it's a good surface. Adam Zampa will be tested once again because South African batters, Klaasen, Markram, or even Quinton de Kock, they play and handle spin pretty well. So I think, that's one area where South Africa, I feel, just have the slight edge. But Australia, you can never rule them out because they are a class act. They know how to win matches. They know how to come out of crunch situations. And the only fact is that Australia, when it gets very, close, that game, a very tight game, Australia know how to win those games and, cross the line. So that's where they have the edge because once you've done it before, it always reflects in confidence.
Right. Let's quickly take a look at the playing 11. Also, the playing 11 is out for both the teams. So let's take our viewers through the final playing 11 team because we were expecting some sort of changes from both the sides. So let's quickly take a look. For Team Australia, David Warner, Travis Head, Mitchell Marsh, Steve Smith, Marnus Labuschagne has come in, Josh Inglis, Glenn Maxwell, Adam Zampa, Josh Hazelwood and Mitchell Starc. They are the playing 11. And now let's take a look at South African side also. Quinton de Kock, Prasar Bharati, Aiden Markram, Klaasen, David Miller, Gerald Coetzee, the young prodigy, Marco Jansen, Keshav Maharaj, Kagiso Rabada and Tabriz Shamsi. So they are the ultimate playing 11 for both the side. Now let's go back to Mr. Mehra and talk about the changes that we've seen. Marnus Labuschagne has come in. Mr. Mehra, what do you think?
Yeah, I just thought because Maxwell is now fit and, he's playing this game. So definitely I think Marcus Stoinis misses out. And you mentioned about Labuschagne. I saw him in the Test series versus India. And he's a class act. He's a really good batter. He's someone like Kane Williamson who can hold one end up and he can play those big innings as well. He can rotate the strike. He can open up once he's well set. So, he's a class act. But you see the line, as I mentioned about South Africa earlier, Deepika, those two spinners, Keshav Maharaj and Tabriz Shamsi, I think they're going to be the key here on this Eden Garden surface. Because, Tabriz Shamsi being a channel bowler, he's got a lot of variety with him. And it's going to be a test for South Africa. Also, how they face someone like Maxwell or even someone like, their Adam Zampa. Because if they can get runs against them, it's going to be really good for them. Because Adam Zampa normally, takes a couple of overs to just get his line and length, being a leg spinner. So I think, that's where they can really cash in as far as South African batters are concerned. But again, the batting lineup for Australia, Deepika, looks very formidable. You mentioned about someone like David Warner, Mitchell Marsh, even Labuschagne. They have Josh Inglis, the wicketkeeper batter for them. So they're a good side. There's no doubt about that. Even Maxwell, the kind of form that he's been. But overall, I feel, just the edge that South Africa have in this game is those two spinners.
We will also talk about Quinton de Kock and also the opponent against him is Pat Cummins. But before that, let's go across to Anil Thomas, who's joining us straight from Kolkata. Good afternoon, Anil. Thank you so much for joining us here on DD India and on this special broadcast. We will... Okay, I've been informed that we will be going back to him. But before that, let's go back to Mr. Mehra. Mr. Mehra, I was talking about Pat Cummins versus Quinton de Kock. What do you think?
Oh, that contest is going to be mouth-watering, Deepika, because, two terrific players, two very experienced players. Pat Cummins, of course, leading, Australia. He knows, how to pick up those early wickets. And Pat Cummins, his captaincy as well. It's going to be very important because, normally we've seen with Australia, having some great names as captain. Alan Border, you name them, it's been Steve Waugh, some legendary captains have had, Mark Taylor as well, so captaincy as well. And of course, there will be a test for someone like Pat Cummins in this game. But yes, you mentioned about that contest is going to be really important because if they can get someone like Quinton de Kock early, Deepika, that's going to be a big plus for Australia. The man in form, the man who can really get those quick runs in the power play, the first 10 overs. So I think that contest, as rightly mentioned, is going to be a really important one.
You very rightly pointed out that Glenn Maxwell is not well, but we also saw his double ton and in India only at this very edition of Cricket World Cup only, and how he just stretched to the maximum of his level and came out really well at the entire match. Are we expecting such sort of exploits even today?
Absolutely. And, the big thing in cricket is, Deepika, the confidence. Once you get those runs, that confidence increases for you. You know that you can do it again. It's just a matter of that confidence. Be it a bowling side, be it a batting side, the confidence is so very important. And as far as South Africa's road to the semis are concerned, they beat some top teams as well. Of course, they lost to India by a big margin, and that was an absolutely big margin as well, losing by 243 runs. But again, they had a good run. But they also lost to Netherlands. Now, that was a big worry for them because they lost to Netherlands by 38 runs. But overall, the run has been really good for them. Of course, losing those two games against India and Netherlands. But apart from them, you see the beating teams like New Zealand, beating Australia as well in the league phase. And the way they played against Australia in that game, I remember, beating them by 134 runs, that was a convincing and a big win for them. So, they're a quality side, Deepika. They know how to win. It looks a very different side for them because, their bowling has really looked good along with the batting, especially once they're batting first in the tournament. We saw in Wankhede Stadium, once they batted first, getting and piling those big scores under the belt. So overall, it's a good team to have. And it's a squad that's really gelling well as far as South Africa is concerned.
Wankhede reminds me of the pitch controversy that's been going on since yesterday. What's your take? Because we heard ICC saying that it is okay if the team is changing it at the last moment. That is also a part of the game. Nothing to hype much about it. But what's your take on that, Mr. Mehra?
Absolutely, because once you play on any ground, be it Wankhede Stadium or any ground in Gardens, you've got to change surfaces as well, and sometimes not easy for the curator. You've got to understand it's a World Cup, it's a long tournament as well, and ICC rightly pointed out that they have to really rotate the surfaces as well. There was a talk that yesterday's surface against New Zealand was very dry as well, but I feel the curator did a fantastic job because it's similar for both the sides. You got to play when you go to England or you go to New Zealand, Deepika, you get those green tops. So when you come to India, they also, playing against Spain, they have to have that caliber as well. So I think as far as the creators are concerned and the rotation of services are concerned, that was actually spot on. But, even ICC backed, the curator out there. So I think he did a good job. Yes, there was a bit slow in nature, when the ball wasn't really coming at that pace. But, being the world champions, you have to reach the final. You have to play on all surfaces. And I think absolutely there's no harm on providing any kind of surface, even if it's a spinning track. For a batsman, you've got to play pace and spin accordingly. So I think it was a really good service to bat on.
Right, very good insight on that pitch. Now coming back to today's semi-final two, let's also talk about Jidal Koitse, who's been the find of this season. We've seen many new finds in different teams also. We've seen new finds and new talent and new fervour in Mohammad Shami for Team India also. But let's talk about Koitse first. What do you think?
Yeah, I mentioned to you, I was covering the series, Australia versus South Africa, that was held in South Africa just before the World Cup. Koitse, he's one man who can bowl with that pace. He bowls on back of leg deliveries as well. He's got a good joker. He's one bowler who can bowl in the death overs as well. So, he's a terrific find. And you rightly mentioned, someone like Mohammad Shami, the seamers for, the teams have done pretty well. Even for India, Bumrah, Siraj, someone like Mohammad Shami. And Koitse, along with Marco Jansen, they are an ideal combination of the order. But, overall, I feel, Koitse is one man that the skipper will be looking up to strike and pick up those wickets. Because just the pace that he has, also along with the pace like Mohammad Shami, he can move the ball around. He's got that in-swinging delivery. He's got a lethal joker as well. And I was very impressed with him, just the way he bowled in the series against Australia before the World Cup. And he's got a very good bouncer as well, Deepika. So, he's got everything in him. He can bowl with a new ball. He can come back in the middle overs. And then even the death overs bowl pretty well because of those jokers and changes pace as well. So, yeah, you're right, absolutely, because he's one man that South Africa will be looking forward to, along with those two spinners as well. And not to forget Marco Jansen.
And Travis Head also says that Jidal is more like a blessing in disguise, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when big occasions come, big matches come, you want your, strike bowlers to really deliver. And of course, if you can pick up those early wickets as well when Australia come into bat. And the good thing for also South Africa is Marco Jansen coming back. Because he's tall, he can move the ball around. He lends that variety in the bowling. As far as Australia is concerned, Marcus Stoinis, I mentioned earlier, he's not playing this game. Of course, a terrific all-rounder, but Labuschagne, he's taken his place. So I think still you see this lineup for Australia. It looks pretty good, Deepika. It's a very good balance they have. Because sometimes you want to play all-rounder just to get that balance going, but they have gone with a proper batter like Labuschagne because just the kind of batter that he is, he can just hold one end up and provide the frame for the innings. So I think it's a good move by Australia to have Labuschagne back into the playing 11.
But also at the same time, Stoinis is not there. Is it a big risk?
Yeah, it's a risk because, of course, one bowler shot, he's an all-rounder, he can play those big shots as well. But I think they've gone with, the proper batters. They also realize that someone like Mitchell Marsh, he can go hammer and tongs, he can play those big shots. They also have, down the order, a lot of batting as well. So I think Labuschagne provides that, that quality in batting. He can play those big innings, and he's technically very sound as well. If the ball is doing a bit under lights, Labuschagne could be the man for you. And he's done it, before as well. He's a terrific T20 player. He's a terrific test player. And as I mentioned earlier, he's got a very good temperament as well. When big occasions come, he rises to the occasion, Labuschagne. So I think, they had to make a choice, Deepika, between Labuschagne and someone like Marcus Stoinis. But I think they've gone rightly with someone like Labuschagne.
And temperament is the key to win the clash, a high-pressured clash like a semi-final of the Cricket World Cup. Now, whosoever wins today, be it South Africa or be it Australia, they've got to face Team India. What do you think of the Ultra Summit clash?
Oh, I think India won't really mind. Of course, Australia, they have been 5-time champions, but India won't mind. Just the kind of form they have displayed so far, Deepika. They have been outstanding form. You see the bowlers yesterday. Just that first spell from probably Shami, from Bumrah and Siraj, they were touch expensive. But by the time Shami came in, he just changed the complexion of the game. And that's the ability that Shami has. 7 wickets for him yesterday in a crunch game. We saw with the batting as well, Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer. But you shouldn't forget the contribution of someone like Rohit Sharma, because he's showing that fearless approach. Once he's in the crease, he dominates in the first 10 overs in the power play. And that, that start has really been such a big blessing, such a big boon for the Indian side. He's not playing for himself. He's playing for his side. Right. He's leading from the front. His captaincy has been pretty good. So I think India, on the other hand, won't really mind because they know that, either the team can come into the final. But what they know is that Sunday is going to be a big day for them. They have to play the best cricket and the World Cup is going to be ours.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Mehra, for joining us right now and bringing us a rounded perspective ahead of the super semi-final clash between Australia and South Africa. And now let's go across live to Eden Gardens, Kolkata, from where Anil Thomas is joining us. Anil, thank you so much for joining us. A very interesting and mouth-watering clash between two super teams, South Africa and Australia. How the fans are excited and reacting to this very important clash of today. Anil.
Well, there is a rich history between Australia and South Africa clashes in World Cup. The two sides have met on 7 occasions, honours shared 3 times. But remember the 2007 St. Lucia loss and the 1999 Edgbaston loss that South Africa had at the hands of Australia. So not great memories, but surely these two teams have a lot to look forward to on this particular track at the Eden. This is where Australia won the first edition of their World Cup triumph in 1987. South Africa on their return in the post-apartheid period. This was the ground they won their first match. They lost that series 1-2, but the only match that they managed to win was at the Eden Gardens. So fond memories for both the teams. The local crowd support or the fan base here purely backing South Africa for the simple reason South Africans have never won the World Cup or South Africans have never crossed the semi-final hurdle. So the local fans, favouring in large numbers South Africa to go to Ahmedabad, but Australia no pushovers. It's going to be a great contest between bat and ball. There is a bit of weather, freaky weather that we are seeing here, a bit of weather forecast for rains here. Let's hope that the rain gods stay away and we get to see a good bat and ball contest where I believe the batters are going to have the big laugh.
And also, what happens if it rains? Can you please explain to our viewers about the reserve day? What happens if the match gets washed out today?
Well, if the match gets washed out and we see one team, finishing their innings and the other team maybe out to or unable to open their account chasing that particular target, what happens is the reserve day comes into play and the match will begin from the spot from where it's interrupted. So if Australia have finished 46 overs of play and we've got 4 overs of Australia left and the whole of South Africa to play, or vice versa, then we begin from the 47th over on the reserve day. And in case the reserve day, which in very likelihood the weather predictions here indicate, if today there is close to 50 to 60% of rain, tomorrow it's 80% of rain. And in case that particular game gets washed out, we don't get to see the two teams come out there in the middle and play some cricket, then what happens is the team positions, the way they have finished, the team with the higher run rate and the higher positioning in the points table at the end of group stage will progress to the final, which automatically means that even if this particular game today and the reserve day tomorrow gets washed out, then South Africa will very confidently walk to Ahmedabad to take on India in that super final on Super Sunday.
And just to remind our viewers once again that South Africa have won the toss and elected to bat first, which is a very good decision, as our guest also analysed. Thank you so much, Anil, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on today's high-octane semi-final clash between South Africa and Australia. The match is about to start in just 5 minutes from now, and we will get you all the latest in sports buzz as well. So don't go anywhere. Keep watching and keep tracking DD India for all latest news and updates from the country and the world. Thank you so much for joining us right now.